Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have an interesting episode for you guys. You definitely want to stick around for, so make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, let me get into this topic here. We all know that Skip Bayless is one of the biggest voices in corporate sports media. There's no question about this, right? He's been out there for a long time, and he is known by many people as the guy who made a career out of criticizing LeBron James. But the fact of the matter is this: Skip has never been afraid, if you look at his history, for calling out athletes. And I mean, we can go all the way back to his cold pizza days. He was doing it back then when he was younger and he had more energy. And he's never been afraid to go face to face with a lot of the guys that he criticized and even invited them to come on his show. He has had some classic debates or exchanges with some of the athletes that he's criticized. One of the athletes you can think of is Chris Bosh of the Miami Heat, former Miami Heat. Of course, you have Terrell Owens, right? He was even on Undisputed. You had Chad Johnson, who was also on Undisputed. He sat across the table from him and told him why he didn't think he was a Hall of Famer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, you had the classic exchange with Terrell Suggs. Of course, Richard Sherman, you guys remember that. And ultimately, they had the big one, which really got messy. That was the clash or the exchange that he had with Jalen Rose, and they had to bring in Stephen A. Smith subsequently to kind of mediate it because they were taking a lot of shots below the belt. So Skip Bayless, to give him his credit, has never been afraid to go face-to-face with a lot of these guys that he's criticized, which brings us to Russell Westbrook. As y'all know, Russell Westbrook had a forgettable season last year, let's say with his debut season with the Los Angeles Lakers. Going into the season, there was a lot of hype, but by the end of it, it was a total disaster. And his most vocal critic was Skip Bayless. It got so bad to the point where he was putting together lowlights of Russell Westbrook, and it even got to the point where his wife had to step in and say, "Listen, put some respect on my husband's name," for calling him. So it got pretty messy. But Skip never relented, and in fact, he gave, I believe, his biggest hot take of last season was when he was talking about Russell Westbrook. And he had something very, very incredible to say when he basically said Russell Westbrook is not a Hall of Famer and definitely not a top 75 player. For those of you who missed Skip Bayless' comments on Russell Westbrook, basically saying why he doesn't believe he's a top 75 player or Hall of Famer. Take a listen to what Skip Bayless had to say here, and we're going to come back because we got a lot more to cover. Take a listen to that.
Russell Westbrook. After I carefully watched number 0, as in 0 rings, Russell Westbrook, this entire basketball season, I watched every dribble, I watched every turnover, I watched every wildly missed shot, and I came to this conclusion. Russell Westbrook, quote unquote, slam dunk, first ballot, Hall of Famer, does not belong in the Hall of Fame. I came to the conclusion that, for sure, Russell Westbrook does not belong in the NBA's all-time top 75 in honor of this 75th year of the NBA. And to demonstrate this, allow me briefly to walk you back through the most bizarre rise of any player in the history of this league. It's 75 years, along with the parts that I played in said rise. I have a source I've been very close to for a long time in this league who's very smart. I might even go so far as to say knows more hoops than I do. He texted me about a month ago and he said, "Come on. This is the same skill set, or lack thereof, that we've seen in Russ from the start back to UCLA." And that's exactly true. He's the same guy. Why on Undisputed did we have an almost daily Russell Westbrook turnover blooper reel or bad shot blooper reel? It's because he is who we didn't think he was, didn't realize he was. He was Westbrook from the start. So what did we see? I've been saying on Undisputed, he has the worst hands of any point guard I've ever seen, ever in pro or college basketball. He just has a terrible pair of hands. He cannot hold on to the basketball.
So that's what Skip had to say in April of 2022, right? He said that just this year. And apparently, over the weekend, Russell Westbrook had some things to say about Skip Bayless as he was responding to a tweet that Skip Bayless put up. So let me just read the tweet here that Russell Westbrook was referring to. So Skip Bayless put up a tweet on January 24th. Lakers acquire second-round pick, take Michigan State's Max Christie, who shot only 32% from three last season. Perfect. He'll fit right in with LeBron and Russell Westbrook. So that's what Skip Bayless had to say. And then Russell Westbrook responded to that and he said, yo, watch your mouth. Don't say anything here you wouldn't say to my face. And then Skip Bayless apparently got a whiff of that. Excuse me. And then Skip Bayless responded to what Russell Westbrook had to say with this. He said on Twitter, hey, Russell Westbrook, happy to talk face to face about the nickname I believe I originated in 2012. Join me on TV/podcast. Let's talk about how you'll make $47 million next year after being the worst three-point shooter in the NBA. Most overplayed player ever, question mark. Please join me. So those were Skip Bayless's comments, his response. That's what he had to say in response to what Russell Westbrook had to say there. Here are my thoughts on this, and I have a few. I think Skip Bayless knows that if he invites Russell Westbrook, and if Russell Westbrook were to appear on the show Undisputed, it will make for great TV, number one, and number two, it will drive ratings through the roof. We all understand it, and I believe Skip Bayless is fully aware of that. I also believe the network is fully aware with it. I don't think Skip Bayless goes out there and says something like this, and the network doesn't give the green light to it. So I think the network and Skip Bayless are working in tandem, right? I think they understand that it could be a cash cow for the two of them. So that's the first part. I also believe that Skip Bayless is not afraid of talking to Russell Westbrook face to face because of his past. As I said before, I gave you guys examples before of him talking to various former athletes face to face on live TV, where both of these guys can go back and forth and debate their points. So it wouldn't be like it's the first time that Skip Bayless is stepping into that type of arena. And I think Skip Bayless totally understands that this is part of his job. It comes with the territory, right? If you're going to give strong opinions on athletes, they're going to have some pushback and they're going to want to voice their opinion. So I think he totally understands that that's par for the course. I don't think he's surprised at Russell Westbrook's response. I also believe that Russell Westbrook should accept the invitation, if you're asking me, because Skip basically called his bluff. Russell Westbrook is up there saying, if you won't say it to my face, blah, blah, blah. Skip is like, okay, man, the floor is yours. Step up to the carpet. I'll give you the mic and voice your opinions, and we can go back and forth. So Russell Westbrook basically said, say it to my face, and Skip Bayless is basically saying, I'm ready to talk to you. So I think Russ should accept the invitation. However, I don't think he will. I just think that he just said that to say it, but I don't think he will. This is just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. Maybe he'll go up there and talk to Skip Bayless. Who knows? The only part I don't understand, however, is the part when Russell Westbrook said, don't say anything here you won't say to my face. I'm assuming, and I'm going to assume, that he's referring to Skip Bayless. That's what I'm going to assume. First of all, let me say this. Skip Bayless is a 5'10", 70-year-old man. A 5'10", 70-year-old man. What are you going to do to him? You going to knock him out? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to see Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is going to give you his opinion, and you're going to punch him in the face? Is that what you're going to be doing? Is that what's going to happen when you're saying, don't say anything like this you wouldn't say to my face? First of all, that would be the biggest sucker clown move in the history of sports. Period. End of story. Russell Westbrook is a 34-year-old, 6'3" athlete. That would be the biggest clown move ever. And anyone who supports that is also a clown. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people were upset with Will Smith, because not just for what he did, because that was totally disrespectful, but to the person he did it to. He went up there and physically assaulted a smaller man and Chris Rock. A lot of people don't give you props for that. That's just sucker, you know what, right? And secondly, to Shannon Sharpe's point that he made in response to that Will Smith and Chris Rock exchange, he said, we as black men, and I'm going to speak for black men because I am one, we have to show that we can solve our problems with our words instead of our fist. Inflated egos and thin skin is what leads to wars. One person said this, I got offended. He looked at me this way. He didn't shake my hand. He did this. I didn't like the way he did this. This guy offended me. Okay, let's escalate it. It's usually a bunch of egos at play that lead to a lot of altercations. There have been a lot of contentious situations that have been solved with words and dialogue. A lot of major issues have been resolved with words. Two sides meeting together. You get a mediator, you sit down, you talk it through. You're like, listen, before this thing goes to that level, let's talk about it. Let's see where we can come to the common ground. Peacemakers are those people that are trying to avoid that. Clowns want to look for any reason to just start something. And that was the point that Shannon Sharpe was making. Why does every single thing have to go to a physical level? I don't understand that. Once you reach a certain age as a man, all this I'll knock you out stuff and all of that, you begin to look ridiculous. You begin to look ridiculous. I've gotten into a lot of fights when I was like in high school, before high school. I got into a lot of fights because I was a kid. I was an adolescent. I couldn't reason well. I couldn't understand things. So one guy say blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, you're fighting, right? I grew up in the Bronx. In the Bronx, y'all know. Somebody look at you, they ice grill you 1 or 2 seconds. Bro, what you looking at? Yo, what's good? Blah, blah. Next thing you know, at least it's something. But once you get to a certain age, once you're in college, who do you know? Think about it. Anyone watching this video that's in college, been to college, or out of college, whatever it is, who do you know that fights in college? They will look at you like you're a damn fool. They're like, bro, you're in college and you're fighting in college? Once you're over the age of 30, 35, 40, why are you still fighting with your fists to solve problems? I can understand if you're in high school, as I said before, even me, I can understand that. But once you get to a certain age, it becomes embarrassing. Can you imagine a grown-ass man throwing it up with some dude because he looked at him the wrong way in front of his kids? You know an embarrassment that I can understand if you're defending yourself. That's one thing. That is one thing. But this thing of, okay, I'm going to show it to you, say it in my face, and I don't understand this, blah, 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 blah. All of that is unnecessary, man. As I said, I can understand this if in self-defense. That's one thing. But this thing of, oh, I'm going to show you this, I'm going to show you that, and blah, 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 blah. That's play, man. You're too old for that. Once you get to a certain age, you got to grow up out of that. And that's the part I didn't understand. Watch what you say to my face. Okay, Skip Bayless said, "Come, I'll invite you to the show. Come and say it to my face. I mean, I'll speak to you in your face. What are you going to do? Hit him? Is that what you're going to do?" To me, it's clownish. Clown behavior. After a certain point, grown men need to act their age. And fighting it up ain't the way. If it's self-defense, that's one thing. Obviously, they're unique situations. But apart from that, if you're running around like, come on, man. To me, that is corny as hell, and it makes us all look emotional. We have to be able to resolve issues with words. Because if everyone had that mentality, every country would always be in conflict. All the time. Right? Whenever things get to that, people look for negotiations, bring in this guy, talk about this one, because the last thing they want to do is make it get to that level. So for him to say that, I didn't understand that, watch him out. So Skip Bayless has called him out. Are you going to accept it or not? To me, these are my thoughts, but the thing of, him going up there, that would never happen. It would be the number one sucker move in the history of sports, and no one would give you any props for that, unless some clown dudes that would do something like that. These are my thoughts and opinions. Some people would disagree. Some people will agree, but that's just what I think. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think? Whatever you think, leave your thoughts in the comment section. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.